If you want to know why we got into line boring, this is a good visual representation. Look at this pin. Look at that. It's not even the right pin. It's off of a quick attach on a Komatsu, I think like WA320 loader at one of our customers' pits. And they called us out there because the bucket was loose, right? Needs bushings. It used to look like this. Then they turned it into that. Yeah, watch fingers. There we go. My name is Michael Morrill with Morrill Metalworks LLC. We are a full-service heavy equipment repair, welding, fabrication, and line boring company here in Greenville, Texas. I'm here with my lead mechanic, Brandon Brenner here, and we've got this nice BRK hydraulic muncher that needed a little bit of welding repair and some line boring, so that's what we're working on today. We straightened out this ear, and we're getting new pin bosses welded on the inside. We're gonna cut out and re-weld a whole new tooth system on there and get it back to work, crushing concrete. So both myself and Brandon, we started out as helicopter mechanics in the United States Navy. That's actually how we ended up meeting each other, and that was down on the ship in San Diego. And you know, I got out and I figured, you know, I really liked working on stuff, but I just kind of wanted to change my my scenery a little bit, and looked around and really liked heavy equipment. I grew up with small business owner parents, and just wanted to find something that I like to do. So got into working on heavy equipment and welding. I worked for a lot of other companies, and I was, you know, company man many times before I went out on my own, but just got to a point where I was like, well, am I going to do it for someone else or do it for myself? I had a few good mentors at places that I had worked early on that basically, you know, gave me the advice that buying tooling, especially in our industry, is always an investment. So I focused on just buying as much tooling as I could to further my career as an employee, and also with the forethought to you know, have the tooling to eventually go out on my own one day when I had the ability to do so. And that's pretty much what led me here. You know, I buy a welder, put it to work, pay it off. You know, buy some, you know, need to test the fuel system on a cat, buy the kit, use it, pay it off. Need to line bore some equipment, buy the line bore, use it and pay it off. Working in the sand pits and at the crushing yards, those guys are not careful with their equipment. So it was just constant that we would get called up for a job for bushings, and we'd get there and be like, hey, you also need line boring. And I was tired of having to turn that line boring work down. I had a bunch of quotes from, you know, other makes of line bore equipment and whatnot, and you know, the price point was kind of hard for something. We're already an established heavy equipment repair and welding business without the line bore, and we wanted to add it to our services, but it was also something that we knew we would have to learn. So we wanted to go with something that was going to fit that price point, fit that learning curve, and fit our business as something to augment us rather than, you know, like a huge purchase like one of our service trucks. You know, I saw some other people who bought one posting some videos online on some groups that I'm on and whatnot, and saw they were getting good results out of it, and the price point looked nice, and you know, they kept talking about, you got to call a mobile machine source down in Florida. Call a mobile machine source down in Florida. So I did. You know, if price was the only thing, you can get, you know, one of those China machines off of eBay. And I've seen guys, you know, use those, but you know, we're a family-owned business, we're a smaller business, and we're not the type of outfit that's going to, you know, be able to waste some money on something that is going to have no product support, that's going to have, you know, no availability for, like, you know, what size tooling do I need? Where do I get the carbides? What, you know, what if I need extra bearings? And then it just really drags you down at that point. You know, and there's no guarantee to it. So I looked around and I looked at some other systems that offered the cutting, you know, just the boring side of things and not getting the welding side. and that made it more affordable. But then it's like, how many hours are we going to spend, and what type of name are we going to build up if we're just, doing, half of the job the hardest way possible? So that's when I found Mobile Machine Source, and I started seeing other guys in the industry talking about it, and seeing some real world demonstrations, and I started doing my research, and that's when I reached out and got a quote and kind of put it on the savings list, and had to wait a few months to actually pull the trigger, and when we did, we've been happy with it. First thing we did when we got this machine was we just started setting up stuff out of the scrap pile and practicing. Luckily for us, the S-Power line bore from y'all at Mobile Machine Source, it's super easy setup that does the job right out of the box, and that was definitely helpful for us. It was easy to figure out and configure and get everything kind of going the way we needed to. The out of the box full functionality of the S-Power from y'all at Mobile Machine Source is it even came with the tools. Like, that was really nice. Trust me, we've got just about any tool you could need, from the full dealer diagnostic programs on our computers to all of these little T-handles and hammers and socket sets and all that. But it's always a pain when you're doing something in the shop or you're doing something in the field and you got a kit that you got to rob tools off your truck, which is a fully contained shop on wheels that we drive to our customers' job sites. And man, if I was using this on the line bore here at the shop, and then I got an early 5 a.m. call the next day, and I got to just roll out at dark and get out there, and I'm like, I left my sockets that I was using on the line bore back at the shop, and then I got to improvise and figure something out, whereas these just came with a full toolkit. And so we pretty much know, as long as everything goes back in the Milwaukee boxes and it all stays together, then every time we drag it out, we'll have what we need.
I've got no complaints. It's done everything I've asked it to do, whether it was a small little 50 millimeter bore all the way up to like on those compaction needles. I mean, it's like a 6-inch bore, or more. And it's performed great. I haven't had any issues. It's really enjoyed running it.
I reached out about some of the tooling and a few things, and your support was always helpful to us. To be honest, it was so easy. We just kind of figured it out. I would like to continue to try to scale and hire more field mechanics and get more into the line boring space. The more rigs we got out there, the more jobs we can service, and the more customers we can take care of. So that's definitely the goal for the future, is to try to add. And so we're getting everything figured out with the first one, and making sure that it's making money. It took a little bit of lead generation to get the word out there at first. I would say like the first 6 to 8 months of having the machine, it was just a couple of jobs. But then recently, within 2025, this year, we've had some of our existing customers really take the bait and and know that they can go to us when they're tired of their other vendor, or somebody else is tied up, or they just don't want to reach out to multiple people. We're already there fixing, putting a new injector in it. Might as well take a look at the front end and get the bucket connection tightened up.